Hello, and welcome to another session of Fusion Writing, where building character meets creating structure. This is a whole new month. We get to start a whole new round of the fun that we have here in Fusion Writing. We'll have a couple of weeks of writing and character building, and then we'll have a third week with special projects and a fourth week of writing. That pattern that we used last month. And don't forget our wonderful Zoom calls on Saturday. We've been having wonderful time. I do hope you'll join us over in LiLLiPub for our wonderful Zoom gatherings. So to launch us this week, Victoria is going to talk about the role of conflict in stories, and I'm going to be talking about insight in character building. So we've got some pretty interesting interconnected topics. So I'm going to start us off with Victoria. She's going to take it away to start us.
Hello, Lillikins and friends. It's good to be back to start our second month of lessons and sharing. The direction I want to go this week is taking you a little further down that road of understanding your characters and understanding how you want to develop your story and what kind of story you want to write. So hopefully after our writing week last week and the prior lessons where we discussed plot development and balance and resilience, you're starting to get a sense of these people that live in your head. Presumably, I would hope the first character that is developed is your protagonist, who is your main point of view, take your reader through the story character. I think most people tend to start with the protagonist. But this week, we're going to dip one little toe into the option of who your bad guys could be. And then we're going to take a look at how those two things start to come together at different points of the story. And that's what we call conflict. Now, I have to share a caveat there, because as I've been doing my research and putting these lessons together for you, I've started to discover something that's very interesting. I started looking at story structures from around the world and how different cultures, different kinds of large and small groups, whether you're talking about someone who writes a novel or someone who's just a local storyteller, they all approach it a little differently. And what I've discovered is there's a very interesting center point around which all of these things kind of gravitate, and that is the kind of conflict. So when we get to the worksheet tomorrow, I'm going to share with you my conflict matrix, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that means and why it's important. But we're also going to always keep one eye on the other side of that coin. The one side is conflict, okay? It's threats, things that push your story forward because there's friction, because there's some point of snag or some conflict or confrontation. But the other side of that coin is, what if the conflict is internal? Kathleen's going to talk about insight. What if your point of conflict is simply a character grappling with themselves, or potentially looking at different sides of themselves and maybe working something out in that way? So it becomes more of an emotional journey. As you're thinking about your characters, I want you to think about each of these things. What kinds of challenges do you want to throw at your character in order to help them grow, in order to keep your reader interested, and in order to get everyone to the end of your story? So that's where we'll be coming from this week when we talk about conflict and how it influences your characters. So with that, I'm going to throw the ball over to Kathleen and let her take it away.
Well, thank you, Victoria. I'm really looking forward to going into that. I'm already thinking about the characters that are in my head and looking forward to turning them into a story. So I really appreciate what you are offering. What I'm going to offer to this week for our two lessons is going into the idea of insight, where that fits in with your character's development. Well, today is the compass day, and that means that we're getting oriented into the concept of insight. What does that mean? Where might we have experienced that in our lives so that we can start to pull out the emotions that go with that character trait group? Now, insight is going to turn out to be our smallest character trait group, but very, very important because insight is all about what makes us intelligent human beings. Where are we going to use our reasoning power to look around us and survey what's going on? Have you been in a situation where suddenly you've been put in charge of an event or a situation and it's kind of on you and you aren't sure that you've got all the information you need or even know all of the actors? How does that make you feel when you feel like, oh, do I have everything I need? Or what about when you're sending your precious child off to college and that I remember, I will never forget the way I felt after dropping my youngest daughter off at college, helping her carry all of her stuff in from the car, and then driving away without her, leaving her behind. It was just the most unthinkable thought imaginable. Well, that you wonder then, is she going to have the insight to judge the circumstances around her? She did. I'm very proud of her. But you worry, when you leave them off by themselves for the first time. That's another thought to think about too. So what does your bad guy in the story going to do? We'll leave the back characters for next time. But insight isn't just looking around. Insight is also about looking ahead. Are you going to be able to predict the outcome of what you want to do successfully? Trying to find a path forward. Have you ever had to work with someone who kind of has a little too much of the ends justify the means, and you don't really think those means are very good, even though you think the end is? How does that come into your feelings? And what about situations where you don't quite have enough information and you kind of need to seek advice or counsel? Well, we all have the classic one, don't we, about he won't stop for directions? Well, have there been times when you know you need advice and you know just the person you should ask, but who, I don't know if I can? These are the kinds of feelings that come up with insight. And as we go forward tomorrow, when we go into the map, we'll be exploring how these can show up in the characters in your story. But we just have this introduction for today to get you interested. Don't forget to come back for the meat of the matter tomorrow. Anything else to add to our compass session, Victoria?
Nope, I think this is going to be a great week. I think it's going to take us much deeper into the material and help us tease those characters apart and start gluing them back together into great stories.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you all. And don't forget to come back tomorrow for the map. Bye-bye.
Thank you.